Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Veterinary Life Coach Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest for you. His name is Ian Chamandy, and he is an author, speaker, and a coach, as well as a contributor to a nationally broadcast TV station. He co-wrote the book, Why Should I Choose You? Answering the most important question in business in 7 words or less. Over the past 20 years, Ian has helped more than 400 organizations define their purpose and become consistently, uniquely remarkable through his proprietary blueprint process, blueprinting. It defines an organization's purpose in 7 words or less and uses it to design how it will operate and communicate. Ian has adapted this process for individuals so they can create a personal blueprint for a happy, productive, self-directed, and purpose-driven life. And I love all that. Welcome to the podcast, Ian. I'm so happy to have you here. And we're going to talk a lot about purpose in our businesses and ourselves, right?
Yes, very. Thank you very much for having me, Julie. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I love all this stuff. So my first question to all my guests is always to tell me their story. So wherever you want to start, tell me about how you got to be where you are today.
Sure. Well, my degree is in social psych for no particular reason.
It sounded good, right?
It sounded good, and I could do it. But my first job coming out of university was in an advertising agency, and I was a copywriter. I had no business being a copywriter, but I was. And so I would sit down and I would start writing copy for a client, and I'm looking at the words on the paper and I'm going, oh my God, this is just drivel, cliche driven, generic, banal. So I went to one of the art directors and I said, can you please make me a sign that asks the question, is this true? And I taped that up on the wall behind my typewriter.
Yeah, so it was that long ago, right?
It was that long ago. Yes, it was that long ago. So I taped it up on the wall behind my typewriter to remind me because I want to get, I want to tell a powerful, valuable, substantive story about my client or the product or the service or whatever. And it's just dribble coming out. So this was why, remind me, get to the root. Well, unfortunately, a sign did not improve my writing. Uh, but, you flash forward a few careers, and about 20 years ago, I met a guy and we had this shared passion for strategic planning in business and a shared frustration for how it was done. And so we decided we wanted to go into the strategy business, but strategy always starts with mission, vision, and values, and we didn't believe in any of that crap. And and here's just one of many reasons why I don't believe in that crap. I defy you to find somebody who can come up with a clear, concise, and compelling differentiation or differentiated definitions of mission and vision. People use those words interchangeably. So, so we thought, okay, well, we can either try and teach people the right way to do it, which we thought was a fool's effort, or we could come up with something new. And that's what we endeavored to do over the next, I would say, 5 to 7 years. It really took us to go from nothing to a fully established, fully baked process, step by step. And 3 things happen in that process. 1, we define what makes you uniquely remarkable as an organization. Okay, so every company has one thing at its essence that makes it uniquely remarkable. And we have to define that and our standard in defining it is in 7 words or less. Because when you only got 7 words or less, and by the way, it usually only takes 2 or 3 or 4 words.
Right.
When you're limited to 7 words or less, you have no real estate for wasted words. Right? As Hendrix said about Lennon, or Lennon said about Hendrix, I can't remember, but no wasted notes.
Okay.
So you have to really nail it if you get it down to 7 words or less. And so what that does is it defines what makes you uniquely remarkable. It's your superpower as an organization.
I love
And
those words, uniquely remarkable.
and by the way, I'm always challenged. One thing, big sprawling company like a bank or like Amazon or whatever, one thing that makes it uniquely remarkable. And what I say to them is, what role did IBM play for its clients in the 40s and 50s? It was a provider of the most sophisticated business technology. What's it doing today? It's a provider of the most
Same.
essential
Yeah,
business technology. Now, none of the technology is the same,
right.
and probably its practices for doing that are entirely different, but it's the same company, half a century later or more. How did that
Yeah.
happen with so many leaders, so many generations of employee turnover? It's like there's something embedded in the culture.
Uniquely remarkable.
Organization uniquely remarkable, and although it can't identify it, it's still keeping it on track. And my point is, well, imagine if you could identify it, and rather than following it blindly by happenstance, you actually followed it intentionally. And that's what a blueprint does, right? So define
Right.
what's uniquely remarkable in 7 words or less. And that gets you to the start line because it's like, okay, well, what the heck do you do with that? Well, you do two things. The first thing that we do is we create the purpose story. And that's a series of questions that we have to answer. And that purpose story becomes the guideline, not the script, the guideline for all the communications that the organization does, the branding, the marketing, the sales, all that stuff. So now, as we work through this process, the client knows what makes them uniquely remarkable, and we've really explored the story around it. So they really get it now. And then the third thing we do is we say, okay, let's look at all the material parts of your organization. And let's see, look at them one at a time and say, is this really aligned with what makes you uniquely remarkable? And if it is, that's awesome. We don't touch it. And if it's not, we come up with one or two lines that describes how it has to shift. And we do that. And what we do is we do that for all the material parts. And that's how we get them working in lockstep together towards a common goal, which is defined by what makes you uniquely remarkable. So those are the three parts. It's a simple logic, a really simple logic. Define what makes you uniquely remarkable and have it guide everything you do and everything you say. And if you do that, then everything you do and everything you say will always be uniquely remarkable.
I love
You
that.
won't be struggling with what's my value proposition. Your value proposition as an organization is at the heart of everything that you do and say once you do a blueprint. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Love
so
it.
now, I'm doing that over and over again for companies, by the way, with a partner who sadly died about 6 months into COVID.
Oh,
Not
I'm
of
so
COVID.
sorry.
Yeah, not of COVID, but yeah, it was a
That's
really
terrible. Yeah.
tragic loss. So, you know, if I say I, it's really us. And when I say us, that's who I'm referring to. He and I.
Okay.
So, we did that. And then COVID hit. And I said to him, we're not getting any business for 12 to 18 months. And it turned out to be longer. So I decided to get my coaching certification and became an executive coach. And when I hung my shingle out, I was a generic executive coach. And the whole point of a blueprint is to make you the opposite of generic, is to
Right. Right.
highlight what makes you uniquely remarkable. And I didn't know what that was as a coach.
Interesting.
So I thought, I wonder how the market is going to speak to me to get me to specialize. And it happened in the very first phone call with a prospect. He said, the pandemic has got me thinking about my life. I don't like my career. I don't like how I'm living my life. I want to live a life of meaning and purpose. And I said, great. What's your purpose? And he said, I don't know.
Oh no. Yeah, that's what most of us say, right?
Right.
It's a really hard question. I've done it many times and I still struggle.
Okay, well, I've made the question easy. Now, it's not
Awesome.
that easy to answer, but it's far
Right.
easier to understand.
Yeah.
in the blueprint definition of things, which I'll get to in a minute.
Okay.
But what it made me realize when he said, I don't know my purpose, is that I could take this behemoth of a process that I co-created for businesses, strip out the stuff that didn't relate to an individual, add stuff in that did relate to an individual, and voila, I have both a business blueprint and now a personal blueprint. You, Julie, define what makes you uniquely remarkable in 7 words or less, and then use that short phrase to design a life of meaning and purpose. So that you also use it as a decision-making tool all along the way. Is this consistent with my purpose? Is being a copywriter in an advertising agency consistent with my purpose?
And it wasn't, right?
Well, actually, if I could write like a copywriter, it actually would have been. But my next job, we talked in the preamble about a job we got fired from. Well, this was the job I got fired from. I started as an entry-level account executive.
Mm.
I am not wired to be an account executive, and I got fired 2 years later.
Wow.
And I was so ashamed of getting fired that I didn't tell anybody for 2 decades.
Yes, that firing word is so painful.
It's so
And
painful.
it happened to me, and I've told my story on the podcast before. It's very shameful, but if you can get over it, it's very useful. Like, I don't know if it happened to you, but for me, it was a huge life lesson, and also it put me on a better path instead of putting up with something that didn't align with my values,
Speaking of a life lesson, right? So I was out of that job, and what I decided to do was become a computer consultant. And interestingly, the company that fired me became my first customer.
Nice.
But I decided to become a computer consultant, and now I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the boss.
Right.
I'm a company of one, but now I'm accountable. There's no one above me to guide me.
Can't
There's no
pass
one
the
above
buck.
me to act as a heat shield
Right.
for the mistakes I made. And then as I'm going through the early days of getting clients and servicing them, I'm going, oh, these people who fired me, this is what they were talking about, and that's what they were talking about. And the other thing,
It became
I had to
clear.
work, to incorporate those things because I didn't have a salary to rely on. I
Right.
I didn't do a good job. I didn't eat. So,
Right.
so yes, I did learn those life lessons, and that was a hugely valuable thing. So anyway, I can't remember where I left off, but I was talking about how it became, an individual blueprint. And so when I was coaching people, we would start out by defining your purpose, and then I would coach them through that filter. Then the next step was I had a lunch a little over 2 years ago with a 4-time corporate client of mine. So it was a CEO who every time he moved, the first thing he did was do a blueprint of the organization. So he knew what the heck it was he was leading, right?
Right. Right.
And I said to him, this corporate thing that you've been through many times before, I've made a personal version of that. And he just sort of went, in another project, I've just created an online infrastructure for an online course, and I can plunk this infrastructure on top of your individual blueprint, and we can, rather than you doing it one-on-one, you can do it one to millions.
Wow.
And offer this online course where I lead you through the process step by step to define your purpose in 7 words or less, fill out the story around it so you know how to talk about you and your purpose, and then design how you're going to live your life so that it's filled with meaning and purpose. You do that with intentionality. In the same way that you'd make a budget for your house to understand your finances in the future, you design the future that you're going to live into, one that's filled with meaning and purpose. So that's where I am now. And that course we offered it to a test cohort in the fall. And I knew it was going to be too big and too comprehensive. And that was the feedback that we got. So we tore the whole thing apart through the winter and spring and the summer and are putting it back together. And a great thing that has happened in the interim is the ease of integrating AI into these kind of processes. And so this big behemoth that, our test cohort had to plow through, had to endure, is now this beautiful, skinny, but really substantive course where our AI tool, Wordsmith, helps you all the way along, finding the right words so that you can quickly define your purpose, build out the story around it, and then design the life of meaning and purpose that you want to live.
I love that. So help us to understand. I don't know whether to go down the business road or down the personal road, but help us to understand what exactly purpose is. If people haven't been through these exercises before, sometimes that's a hard definition, and you've kind of already talked a little bit about it and why it's so important.
It's so whenever I start harping on the definition of purpose with people, they're always like, oh, here's the purpose nerd just going off on these technicalities of purpose. But then I say, well, okay, what's your definition of purpose? And they either don't have one. The one they have is so vague and woo-woo. It's like, who'd want that? Or they say, it's why I exist. Right? That's a pretty common answer to what's your purpose? Well, the reason I
Right,
exist, right? Why do I exist?
right.
And the thing is, how do you answer a question like that? Why do you exist? That's
I think
you.
that's why it's such a trigger word for a lot of people. And when you say, "Oh, you have to have a purpose," they just kind of gloss over it because
Right,
they don't know what to say or what that means, or
right.
you know.
Notionally, they understand that it's a good thing, and they'd be
Correct.
happier if they had purpose, but they don't know what the heck it is. So,
Right.
problem solved by none other than Pablo Picasso, one of the most famous artists ever.
Yeah.
And he has a quote that says, the meaning of life is to find your gift. Your purpose is to share it. So I just
Mm,
rephrased it.
I love that.
Your purpose in life is to find your gift and share it with the world, right?
Yes.
So your gift, to find your gift. What's your gift, Julie? And it's singular, right? And I
Yeah.
just I just articulate that slightly differently. I just call it the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable. So that is your purpose. That's really, what you own
Yes.
is your superpower. And it's
Right.
very unique to you. And if you know it and you know what the value of it is, then you just want to share it with the world. Right? So my superpower is transforming confusion into clarity. And
Oh, that's
let me,
good. I need that.
well, okay, but see, okay, I have to do a tangent because you just brought up a really good point.
Okay, do a tangent. I love tangents.
We have what we call the I want me some of that factor.
Mm,
And so you can come up with a purpose statement that's very cerebral, very accurate, and you don't get the kind of reaction that you just got. The reason that you reacted the way you did is because my purpose resonated with you on a deep emotional level, as it does with me. That's why I love it. It's like, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. It
right,
resonates on a deep emotional level.
right.
But it also, the promise of the purpose resonated with you as well. And notice that my purpose didn't say I transform confusion into clarity. I don't own transforming confusion into clarity. I'm just committed to it. And I have, I don't mean to be immodest, but I think I have a bit of a talent for it, right?
Right.
So my purpose, transforming confusion into clarity, because I didn't articulate it as I do this or we do this, it becomes a big tent that you can be a part of. If you don't have clarity about something and it's causing you anxiety, you go, oh, yeah. Let me into your tent. Right? That's the way it
Yeah.
works. That's the way it works. So that's one of the tests of, is your purpose statement right? First of all, does it resonate on a deep emotional level with you? Because you have to live it, and it better, or you're not going to want to live it. And
Right.
secondly, does it make the right people say, I want me some of that? And if it
Okay.
does, then it resonates with them on a deep emotional level. And by the way, you want your purpose statement to be like a magnet, right? And so as a magnet, your reaction is what we think of a magnet. There was attraction there. You were attracted to my purpose statement. But a magnet repels as much as it attracts. It's
Right.
50-50, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
what you want your purpose statement to do is also have people say, oh, I don't need that, right? So,
Okay.
so if you didn't need clarity around anything, then you would have said, oh, that's a nice purpose, Ian. I think a lot of people will find value in that. And the thing is, you don't, at least not at the moment. So we don't waste our time trying to figure out if there's some, business fit or personal fit or whatever between us, um, because you don't need what my purpose offers. Now, if you think of it in a business, as a business, if you define your purpose, you want your purpose statement to do exactly that, be both sides of the magnet. You want it to attract people who love your purpose. And you want people who are not aligned with your purpose to say, yeah, that's interesting, but not for me. And then they don't waste their time and your time applying for a job, going through the interview process, and then finding out that neither of you want each other.
Right. Yeah.
You can do your purpose does a pre-screen of candidates for your business by saying, here's who I am and what I stand for. Do you want to be a part of that or no? It's like, oh yeah. Okay, great. Fill out an application. Or it's like, no, that doesn't fit for me. Awesome. Doesn't mean anything is good or bad. It
Right.
just, you're not a fit. And it's great that we can figure that out right at the beginning without wasting each other's time.
Right. And it kind of weeds out the clients that aren't your clients.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, based on what you just said. If you're the owner of a business or one of the leaders in the business, because that happens in vet med, there's usually a hospital owner and then there's some management, and even the doctors have some leadership responsibilities. Do those leaders' purposes have to align before they can create the purpose of their business? Does that make sense?
It
Like, how would
absolutely
you do that if you're like, okay, we have this hospital, I feel like we're all over the place. How do we get this business a purpose or a
I'm going to
purpose
give you
statement,
I'm
blueprint?
giving, I'm going to give you an extreme example of that.
Okay, beautiful.
So first of all, I want to just sort of modify some of the language because um, as we discovered in the IBM example, your purpose already exists inside
Ah,
you as an organization. So we're not um, creating it, we're revealing it,
okay. So
right?
it's more of a definition. You're trying to define it.
And to articulate.
Got it.
So in theory, all the docs in that veterinary clinic, in theory, should be aligned because they went through the interview process. You like me, I like you, let's work together, blah, 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 right? But
Right.
that's perfect world, and that's not necessarily true. So we were blueprinting a charity. And the CEO of the charity said, the organization is at a fork in the road, and it can go left or it can go right. And if it goes left, I want to lead that organization. And if it goes right, I think that's actually also a good decision for the organization, but I'm not inspired by that direction. personally.
Right.
So I don't want to be with the organization if it goes in that direction. So she, as the CEO, led a strategic process that defined the purpose of the organization. She agreed 100% with the purpose of the organization and then said, it doesn't match with my purpose. So let's find a CEO who does match, who hears the purpose and says, oh my God, I want to lead that organization. And I'll do the handoff to that person. And then I'll go find a charity to lead that's more aligned with my purpose. And that's
Okay.
exactly what happened.
Yeah. So it kind of weeds in and weeds out employees, team members as well,
Yeah.
once you have it defined.
Yeah. Once you have it defined, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it does. It's a
So
filter.
tell me what's good about, like, if somebody says, I don't know if I want to go through this process and try to figure this out, tell me what's important about having the business purpose defined and the personal purpose defined.
Okay. So what's important about the business purpose is that every organization struggles with communicating its value to the
Mm,
outside.
truth.
And the problem it has trouble communicating its value is because it's like the old parable of the three blindfolded people standing around an elephant. And one of the people grabs the trunk and says, oh, it's a hose. And another person feels the side of the elephant and says, oh, it's a rough wall. It's a stucco wall. And another person grabs the tail and says, no, it's a rope. It's like that's what features and benefits are, whether you're doing features of benefits of the product or service or of a company itself. It's a laundry list of things that make us great and why they're great. And the problem is that all those things are not really what your value is. They're the things that contribute to your value. So if all these features and benefits things are true, you have to go one step up and say, what is your true value? What is your full value? And when you know that, then all of a sudden the world changes for you. You have, I was pitching, I'm in Toronto, by the way, and I was pitching one of the most exclusive golf courses. We've got a billion golf courses surrounding us. And I was pitching one of the most exclusive courses in Toronto. And all of their board members were, KPMG, PW, EY, McKinsey, Bain, all that. And the chair said to me, what is it that interests you about getting us as a client? Is it if you do a good job with us, you can go and pitch other clubs as well? And I just looked at him and I said, no, no, that's not it at all. It's how we change you because you are going to come out of this process with a fundamentally different idea of what business this organization is in. And you are going to be so excited about what that is that you will feel like a changed person. And that's what I love. I love
Yeah.
having people, it's like the veil lifts and the fog clears on what this entity is that you're leading and how to take it forward. And now you just want to charge up the hill. And so so one of the things is just, really understanding what your full value is. The second thing is getting everybody to sing from the same hymn book.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so when you can create an inspiring picture of the future by defining your purpose, and then you go through the process of weeding people out who don't agree and bringing people in who do, now you have a workforce that is completely aligned with who you are and where you're going as an organization. And whatever their individual purposes are, in some way they feed into yours because they've heard yours and they said, yeah, I want me some of that.
And they've got the skill or the will to contribute to that
Yeah,
purpose.
I mean, it assumes that they've got the skill set and they
Right.
can do the job and all that jazz.
Yeah.
What's more important I mean, you can train people, right?
Sure.
But you can't train them in attitude. But what you can do is you can paint an inspiring picture of your future by defining your purpose and have and draw out the right attitude from them because they want to play ball with you. They want to be a part of you.
Yeah.
Then I would say the third thing is the first thing is understanding your full value, and
Mhm.
these all pertain to individuals as well. Second thing is just the alignment. It's getting everybody to pull together in the same direction. And the third is that, and this is the dirty little secret about purpose, is that at the end of the day, it's just a decision-making tool. Should I do this or should I not? I'm presented with a scenario. Should I do it or should I not? The first question you should ask is this consistent with my purpose? Is it aligned with my purpose? And if the answer is yes, it's a candidate. It's not necessarily the choice, but it's absolutely a candidate. And in business, we would say it's on strategy.
Okay. So it helps you make easier decisions, rule out the stuff that doesn't align with your.
That's right. So when you're in the boardroom, you're in a business meeting, you've got all these, high foreheads there, and they've all got tons of experience. They've all got tons of ego. They're very smart people, or they wouldn't have risen to that level. And they're debating about what the organization should be in the future. And what that conversation is essentially a battle of two things. One is opinion, and the other is power. In that room, where are you on the power scale? And how effectively can you use that power to push forward your opinion? Now, it's an informed opinion, it's an intelligent opinion, but it's just an opinion. And if I don't agree with you, I'm going to push back with my opinion.
Right.
You have your purpose sitting like an orb on the boardroom table. When I say, I think we should do this, I have to rationalize it as being aligned with the purpose, right? I have to use the purpose to explain why I think this is the right thing to do.
Hmm.
If you disagree with me, I don't give a damn about your opinion, but I do give a damn about, are you able to make a better argument with the purpose about why it's not appropriate? So we have this thing sitting in the middle of the table that we all agree objectively. This is who the organization is. This is its purpose. And now all ideas have to be consistent with the purpose. So that's how, you use it as a decision-making tool.
Yeah. So how do you take a room full of people that all work for the same organization and decide on these words? Because you said it's less than 7 words, right?
Yeah, so our
How
standard
would
is
you do that, like practically speaking, just in case somebody's like, yeah, we need to do this, we need to figure this out, but I have no idea how to do it.
right. So the colloquial way I describe doing it is we tear your business apart, and like a monster jigsaw puzzle, it's sitting in pieces on the table. In that conversation about tearing it apart, at some point, something resembling your purpose statement will pop out. The first thing we have to do when we think we've got the right thing is we have to test it. We have to bulletproof it. And there's a way we do that to make
Okay.
sure, right? So just like my purpose statement has to resonate on a deep emotional level with me, and it did resonate on a deep emotional level with you, we do the same thing with a business purpose statement. Okay, clearly it resonates with you, the company. Let's see if it resonates with customers. Does it resonate with shareholders? Does it resonate with vendors? Does it resonate with regulators? Does it resonate with the government? And if we find that the same 7 words or less resonates with all your material audiences, then it's the right purpose statement. And so then what we do is we start reassembling the company around the purpose statement. And some stuff will get left off, other stuff will be added on. But now what you're left with is, or what you've created, is a very is an organization that is very tightly aligned with its purpose. And now here's the thing. And I know it's self-serving for me to say this, but you can't do therapy on yourself.
Right. Well, we know that. I know that as a coach that it's really difficult to get into your own brain, so you have to have someone help you do that. And this is a similar process because, you're gonna it's difficult to just sit here and say, okay, my purpose is blah blah
Yeah,
blah, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, oh, geez, I forgot where I left off. Okay, so,
Well, you're talking about not doing it yourself.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, it's self-serving of me as supplier of these services to say you
Sure.
can't do it
Yeah,
yourself.
that's okay
I
though. That's
recognize
why
that.
you're here, right?
But the
To
thing
tell
is,
us about what you do.
you need that outside objective perspective because, in these sessions, I'm constantly saying that doesn't fit. There's a logic gap here. I don't understand that. I don't, so yeah, uh
Challenging your thinking.
I'm constantly challenging your thinking in ways that has never happened before. So I don't know if you know the Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF, but it's the second biggest film festival in the world after Cannes in France. And when we did their blueprint, the COO said, we've been through these strategic exercises before, but you went about 6 layers deeper. And that's the thing. Yeah. I have to sit there and I have to say,
And
pardon my
dig.
friend, but bullshit
Yeah,
until we get
right.
deep enough to
Yeah,
get where you
dig
really are.
down into it.
Because
Yeah,
it's so easy and expedient to just say, that's good enough. Let's go out and sell. It's like, well, no,
right.
no one's going to buy.
Yeah, yeah. So for a personal evaluation or a personal um purpose statement, blueprint, you call it blueprint, I guess. Um, what would be a good first step for someone that says, yeah, I really need to do this? Or why is it important? Like, how would you convince someone that was saying, I'm not sure if I need to figure this out? What's good about it for them personally, their relationships, their own mental health? Like, what's the value of doing this exercise for you personally, I guess?
So it's knowing what your value is as a human. It's
Oh,
knowing
okay.
your superpower.
Yeah,
Like you've got a limited time on this planet. And, I figured my superpower when I was, I don't know, late 40s, early 50s, something like that. You should know that in university, coming out of university, launching your career, launching your family. You should know that in advance. That
right,
should that should be a required understanding, knowing what your superpower is. Now, once so knowing your superpower, A, allows you to leverage it, right? To use it out in the
right,
world. But also, when you know that you have a superpower that nobody can take away from you, and when you look around, you say, oh, everybody else has a superpower too, but not mine. Mine's uniquely remarkable to me.
yeah, right.
That gives you an incredible amount of confidence.
I love that. Yeah,
And then the third thing is that you can live a life of intentionality. So again, I talked about it's just a decision-making tool in business. It's a decision-making tool for people as well. So you're faced with life choices. And how do you decide if I should or shouldn't do this? How do I decide if I should or shouldn't take a job as an account executive as an advertising agency?
right,
Well, you know, being an account executive, which is basically being a glorified administrator and nanny to the clients, transforming confusion into clarity, where does that fit in there? Doesn't. That's not a job I should have.
right,
Yeah, so it's knowing your superpower, it's the confidence that your superpower gives you, and then it's being able to use it as a decision-making tool So in every decision you make, you're saying, is this me or is it not me?
Right. Does
And
it
you
align?
answer the question.
Right. Easily. Once you have those 7 words or less.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And the reason you picked 7 words, you kind of already said it, I think, but
I'm not sure we did. So a lot of stuff that is integral parts of our process were not created by us, right?
right.
So I remember I was driving, to go on a family vacation, and I'm having a business conversation on the phone with this guy who is also a coach. And he was talking about how I was getting his perspective on our business. And he was saying, yeah, like knowing what makes you uniquely remarkable is really important. And that's what your 7 words or less does. And I went, oh my God, you're right. And that became a part of our nomenclature. And also, it was somebody else who noticed that when we got the phrase nice and tight, it was always the longest one we did was 7 words. So we just made the declaration. We didn't know if we could deliver on it.
Right.
Made the declaration.
That
Has
it
to
was
be
going to be
7 words or
seven
less.
words or less. Okay.
And it was such a right decision. I don't mean to brag, but it was such a right decision that most of them are in 2 or 3 or 4 words,
Right. Yeah.
transforming confusion into clarity, right?
Yeah.
4 words,
That's
but they
awesome.
capture a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it probably helps you weed out the crap, like I've worked with multiple organizations on forming the mission statement, forming the vision. I've been through those exercises 100 times. And the problem is when you're in a group, everyone has a word that they're passionate about, and it's hard to get it into a concise, small sentence because of there's no tool to weed out the stuff that is unnecessary.
There's two parts of a purpose statement. There is um, what it means, and then there is how it's articulated.
Mm,
And the process you're talking about, where everybody has their own special word, you're starting ass backwards. You're starting out trying to figure out the words rather than the idea. You
okay.
start out trying to figure out what the idea is. And then, and once everybody agrees, yes, this is the notion of our purpose,
Right.
then the words
Then
have to
finding
match
the
the
words.
notion. And if your pet word doesn't match the notion, you've
It's
only
out.
got 7 words or less. There's not enough real estate to
Yeah.
squeeze your meaningless word into this statement.
Now, how do you feel about the whole mission statement, vision statement? Because that's kind of how it's usually laid out, right? When you're doing something in these business seminars or whatever, they want your business to have a mission and a purpose and a value and value statements. How do you feel about all that? Is it all covered by this purpose
Yes.
blueprint?
How I
So
feel
you
about,
don't need any of the other stuff? I love that.
and the reason for that is, I mean, we did design this to replace mission, vision, and values.
Vision and values, yeah.
And the thing is that, so like I said before, I defy you to come up with a definition of mission and vision where they're not the same thing and where they each represent a very distinct idea. Now, some of the people who are listening to this will be able to say, well, I can do that. And yet you can, but you're
Right,
not the majority.
right,
The
right.
majority use them indistinguishably. Oh, let me tell you
Or they
about this.
don't understand what the difference is.
They don't understand what the difference is. So let me tell you this funny story. The one time that I really sort of lost it with a with a client, and it was because this is all done collaboratively, right? It's not, oh, the
Right,
big brains go away and come back and tell you what your purpose is. This is
right.
all done in a facilitated conversation. And I don't know, we're about 2 sessions, 3 sessions into a blueprint, and the CEO says, when are we getting to our mission, vision, and values? Like, are we doing those in this process or not? And I said, no, we don't do those in this process because this replaces it. And he says, well, I don't really understand how it replaces it. What, like, look, why don't we just do our mission, vision, and values? And I said, well, why don't you tell me what your mission statement is, and we'll go from there.
Right.
And he said, I don't remember what it is, but it's. I said, well, just paraphrase it for me. He said, no, I don't know. I said, in your own words, I don't care. Just paraphrase it. And he said, no, I'll
Right.
call my assistant.
Like he doesn't know it at all.
No, he doesn't know it at all. And
Right.
then I turned to his executive team, who turned into poodles. I said, what about you? Any of you? Do you know what the mission statement is? Any of you? And I don't care if you get the words right. Do you know what
Yeah.
it is? And they all like they didn't even like shake their heads. They were just like trying to be
Like they
invisible.
knew they were supposed to, but they didn't have it memorized.
And they're trying to be invisible. And I turned to the CEO and I said, if you have gone to the time and expense to define mission, vision, and values, and nobody in the organization, including you, knows what they are, how are they supposed to guide behavior?
Right.
Like, why are you doing this process if not to guide the behavior of the organization? And if nobody knows what they are, how do they guide behavior?
I love
So,
it.
further on the behavior guiding idea is values, right?
Right.
Our values, our corporate values, our corporate
Right.
values. Again, what are they? So, and I have many clients who can answer the question, what are they?
Right.
What they can't answer is how do they guide your organization's behavior? So there's a list of about 15 or 16 values, and every company plucks their set from
The
that
ones that
list.
sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Julie, you just hit the nail on the head. It is a narcissistic practice that feeds their ego, right?
Right.
So take a value like honesty, accountability, right? You come into an organization and you learn that one of its values is accountability. Well, you think you're already accountable. You think you're already honest, right? How is
Right.
this supposed to guide my behavior? Honesty is one
Right.
of the values.
Yeah. It should be
Oh,
assumed, right?
oh, I'm a liar normally, but because your value is
It's
honesty,
honesty.
when I
Yeah.
come in at 9, I'm going to be honest until I leave at 5 and then revert back to my normal self. So
Right.
what I do is I say, okay, you have a value that is accountability. What does that mean to you? And they will reply in a sentence or a number of sentences that are structured something like, won't be exactly, but something like, we believe this, we believe that, we believe the other thing. And I say, great. Those are your beliefs. They are one step below your values. They are more tangible than values, and they guide behavior in a way that people can understand, and it guides their behavior. So remember, I told you 3 parts to the blueprint process. Define what makes you uniquely remarkable in 7 words or
Right.
less. Have it
Yep.
guide how you operate. Have it guide how you communicate. In
Right.
the guiding how you communicate, in the purpose story, there are 2 really cool things that we do that most companies don't do. One is we define your beliefs. So you will have a set of 4, 5, 6, 7 beliefs, guiding principles, and they will make sense. You won't look at those and say, honesty? How do I be more honest when I'm already an honest person? I'll say,
Right.
oh, I get that's how things are done here. And yeah, I get that. I can do that. Yep. Oh, yeah, I can stay inside those. Yeah. So, and then the other cool thing is answering the question, what is your methodology? All right. So for your clients who are all veterinarians and veterinary clinic, right?
Right.
What is the methodology of this veterinary clinic versus that one? And you'd think, what do you mean methodology? Right? People come in, they bring their sick animals.
Right.
We do our best to make them better. That's our
Right.
methodology. in
That's what
itself.
we do. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's your workflow process. But I have Ken and I, Ken, my business partner, we had this belief, and that was every single business is started for the same reason. And it's because a person or a group of people said, I know a better way to do this.
Yes.
Right? So
Hmm.
you've worked, right? You're a young veterinarian. You work in a number of clinics. You say, oh, I really like the way this clinic does this. I don't like the way it does that. And then you work in the next one and you go, oh, yeah, yeah, well, yeah, yeah. Good things, bad things. And then another one. And then you say, you know what? All of these people I worked for, they had it almost right, but I know how to make it better, or we know how to make it better.
Right.
And that thought of how to make it better, that's the seed for A, their company, and B, what makes that company uniquely remarkable. So
I love that.
that's what we're capturing,
Yeah.
right? So you have, let's say, three veterinarians who work independently, know each other professionally, go out for a few drinks, decide they get along, and find that they have things in common with how they want to conduct a practice. And so they decide that they're going to leave their jobs and they're going to create a practice together. And that shared thought of how we make it better, that's the beginning of what makes you uniquely remarkable. And if you know that at the beginning, then you don't flounder along the way, trying this, trying that, trying the other thing, throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. No, because you've got a decision-making tool and you can say, I'm going to use this spaghetti for this, and I'm going to use that spaghetti for that because I know how to make those decisions for my business now.
Based on my purpose. Yeah, I love that.
My purpose, yeah.
That's awesome. So what have I not asked you, or what have we not talked about before we start to wrap this up that we should also say? Is there anything we've missed?
Let me think about that. Um, so what I would say, I'm just going to reiterate something, and it went back to the story about
Perfect.
the golf club. And this idea of fundamentally changing your perspective on yourself and your life and
Yes.
how you want to live that life.
Love that.
And because when you come to that realization, what's tagged along with it is the articulation, the revealing and the articulation of your superpower. It's like you feel all of a sudden, you know,
Right, right. Yeah.
and that's how you should live your whole life, feeling
Yes.
that way and having that kind of impact. You've got something to offer to the world. And there's lots of people who live a small life only because they don't recognize that. Me, little old me, what do I have to offer to the world?
Right.
You have the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable. And you would be shocked to find out how many people out there find that valuable.
I love those words, uniquely remarkable. I think that's a really interesting way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is what is uniquely remarkable about me?
That's
Yeah.
right. So when you go back to one of your original statements, which is, purpose is this big nebulous thing and it's hard to answer. Well, it's only hard. And I said, yeah, I'm a purpose definition nerd because I'm in the
Right.
business.
Because that's what you do.
Right. Like even my partners with the course, the startup company, right? They heard me harping on about it's important to define it properly, because there's a billion different definitions out there and they're all bad and they scare people away. And now they got it. They've got it. And they're
Right.
all like, yeah, yeah, we gotta be the ones who define what purpose is because everybody else makes it so difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what fascinated me about when I ran across you is like, okay, let's figure this purpose thing out once and for all. Because there's so many books and I've read all the books and you think you kind of know, but I think the way you boil it down is much simpler and more impactful.
It is.
So I love that.
And transforming, right? At the root of transforming confusion into clarity, which is my purpose statement, is
Right.
simplicity,
Right. Yeah.
right?
That's a
And I
perfect.
think that that's what you're responding to is the
Yes.
simplicity in all this, in this process, in this definition, in this, like, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Right. It
And when
should be
you
easy.
stop making it complicated, its power is
Right.
revealed.
I love that. That's great. Well, tell people where they can find you if they want to learn more about going through this process with you or how they can do more of this personally or professionally. Tell them where to find you.
Okay, so there's two different websites, and you should be able to see them both in in my frame there.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So if you are interested in a blueprint for your business, 7words.biz is where you want to go. And if you're interested in doing a personal blueprint, defining what makes you uniquely remarkable, and then having that guide everything you do and say in your life, then go to Purpose You. That's it looks like a funny word down there, but
Right.
it's like Purpose University, right? So
Purpose you. Right.
purposeu.co. Now, what you're going to find when you get there is a landing page that says coming soon. Give us
Okay.
your
Because we're
email.
still working on that.
That's right. That's right. We're
That's
putting the
awesome.
finishing touches on it as we
Right.
speak. So give us your email, and the moment it launches, we'll send you an email saying, "Here you
Here
go."
it is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been great and fun and interesting and all the things. And if nothing else, I love that you're uniquely remarkable. I'm going to steal that or and give you credit. Obviously, I'll quote you, but I love thinking about self-worth in that way. In fact, I was just writing another podcast about that, so it's really fun. So this will go great with what I've been talking about lately.
Oh,
So I
awesome,
really appreciate you being here.
Julie. It was a fun
It
conversation
went
with
by
you.
super fast.
It
So
did.
usually
And
when it goes by fast, I know I was having fun. So
I
I'm
know
not
it's
watching the clock and thinking that what else can I ask? I think I could go on and on, but I really appreciate you being here and maybe when the purpose you is finished, you can come back again and we can go through a little bit more of it.
we love that.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. So this is Ian Chamandy, and I appreciate you listening this week. So everyone have a beautiful week. And thanks a lot, Ian.
Thank you very much, Julie.
Bye.